Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go! So, Jesse, give us a bit of background on you in terms of coaching and where your football life has taken you to get you to this point.
Yeah, I grew up in Ontario and then had a brief stint down in North Carolina. So I spent some of my high school and college time down in North Carolina, down in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
Came back to Canada, Western, played some junior for the London Beefeaters, and then I kind of moved out west to Alberta, and I've kind of been out west for the most part outside of 1 year ever since 2008. So kind of most of my coaching in the last few years has been at the CFL level, and then scouting at the CFL level, guest coaching stuff in the US, and kind of just reinventing the wheel here to stay relevant while I have kids and a career. So trying to stay active, and the Team Canada thing came up and I had an opportunity. So it was US football, something I'm very familiar with. Mm-hmm. I kind of jumped at the opportunity to kind of revive this.
So what's the career? What do you do in life?
Yeah, so I'm the director of business development and sales for a construction service and labor related kind of company, right? So we focus on like oil and gas and major projects and LNG, et cetera.
So what's the main reason you've stayed around football this long, either as a player and now in the administrative / coaching role?
Honestly, it's I think I want to do something eventually at some point in my life where you get paid to do something you love. And I think at the end of the day, I love football without getting paid. So how much would I love it if I had an opportunity to make that my number one goal? So that's kind of the steps I'm trying to get to. But, while you got young kids and you got kind of a career going, I think it's not the right time for me to chase it. And I've had the opportunity to chase it full time. It's just now is not the time. So for me, it's staying relevant and kind of building for what's next.
Okay, and what's next is Team Canada. You guys played Italy. Now listen, flag football's all the rage internationally. It's a great game. I coached it in the Regina level. They've got the most exciting youth flag football league in Canada right here in Regina. Mike Thomas at Football Sass does a great job. I've also been involved coaching tackle football, got my kid to go through tackle football, so I love the tackle game first. We're forgetting about the senior men's tackle team, so that's what we're talking about right now. Now, you guys had a game against Italy a few months ago, I guess.
We did.
Right? Sorry, how long ago was that? The games blend into – leagues and games blend in for me, so how long ago was that game?
Easter weekend we played them in Italy.
Yeah, and so tell us about that game.
Yeah, so that was kind of round one of kind of reviving this. So I mean, it's kind of funny. It was to them it was a friendly, but to us it was kind of a qualifier to get back on the national stage, if that makes sense, because Canada hasn't played since 2011 at this level. So the reality is that we needed to be relevant in the world circle, which we were not. So we went over to Italy, we played them, flew into Rome, mini camp in Ontario before we went. It was compressed work week to say the least, right? So we kind of did that, flew out to Cagliari on the island, played them on the island, and then they kind of showed us their B team. They weren't really ready to put everybody on the table for this. So that game ended up being a massacre. It was like 56-0, and it probably could have been 100 if we really wanted it to. So, it was good for the boys to see the experience and kind of test. And, it was good for us to see what worked and didn't work, right? So that was kind of part of it. It was a good start, but, now we kind of gear up for what's next.
Yeah, so it's the World Championship coming up here. They hold this every 4 years? Is that right? Am I correct with that?
Previous, yeah. So that was the intent, but they haven't done anything since 2015 at this level. Like they've done the under 20.
So why? Sorry to cut you off, Jesse. So why the revival now? Like what's spurred on the revival or the renewal of this now?
Well, I mean, I think it's crazy. Like you go to Europe, they got their senior stuff going ever since, right? And really since 2015, they haven't done anything on the global scale of things. So I kind of looked at it like, if I can kind of stir the nest a little bit, I want to compete for a gold, right? I want an opportunity to piss people off and, but also give our guys an opportunity. There's a lot of guys that, like, I'm sure you understand at the CFL level, that they get their sip of coffee, or they get drafted for a year and they're cut, and then they're sitting free agents, right? So this is kind of my opportunity to keep guys relevant so that they can get some more film, keep playing, and maybe it opens another door for another crack at the roster, right? So
so talk about some of the guys on the team, because you do have CFLers, you got ex-CFLers, I think, coaching. So just give us a rundown of the coaching staff / the players on this roster.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I got a great staff, and then of the staff, I've worked with all these guys personally. I've either coached with them, coached against them some way, shape, or form, or played with them, or coached them themselves, right? So, I mean, the guy that stands out the most, and he's a class act, one of the smartest guys out there, is Craig Butler. Played for the Rough Riders. He's special teams coordinator in Hamilton. So Craig's our special teams coordinator, and I also coach Craig back in his OPFL days. So it's kind of, it's a London, Ontario circle, and so that kind of comes full light now, which is awesome. Chris Marshall, he's the O-line coach at Western. Spent some time in the CFL also. Myself. We got a good group of guys. Matt Walters, I think we got of the staff, 6 of them that have played, and another 4 or 5 of these guys that have coached at the CFL level, right? And then you go into the roster. I mean, we got 45-man roster. I think 39 of them have some way, shape, or form CFL experience.
Wow.
On that original roster that went to Italy, right? So, I mean, it kind of, when you got guys like Chris Merchant and Michael O'Connor, kind of leading the quarterback room, it makes things pretty easy. You're not there coaching. You're fine-tuning and you're managing.
So this is something I've talked about on this show, and it really drives me nuts. I'm not against. I don't want people to think I'm against Americans, because I like Americans bring star power to the Canadian Football League. They do. Yeah. That doesn't mean Canadians don't, but Americans add a little spice, a little mystery. Oh, this guy comes from Georgia, or this guy had a cup of coffee with the Rams. What I don't understand is why. Like, here's one that boggles my mind. I was calling the Rider game when the BC Lions were playing the Riders, and Michael O'Connor was 9 of 11 for 99 yards, and I think he had a touchdown in that game, if my memory serves me correct, and he got hurt, and it looked like he was ready to go back in, and he never got back in again. And I don't mean in that game, I mean again.
Yeah.
How can a good Canadian guy, or a Chris Merchant, or a Mason Nias, or a Adam Sinagra, and the list goes on and on, how can't those guys be worthy of being like even a third-string developmental quarterback in the CFL, instead of these guys we bring onto the field to just be short yardage dudes that throw 20 passes in their entire career?
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I obviously had some time, and I don't want to speculate. I mean, but I would say, when I look at arm talent, I mean, all the guys you mentioned, I mean, Chris is a great quarterback. Mason's got a hell of a career in Saskatchewan too. Like, these guys are all played at a high level, but when you get into Michael O'Connor's arm, it's night and day from any Canadian kid. You know what I mean? Like, all those quarterbacks you mentioned, you compare it to Michael's arm. They're not even in the same league. So for him to never get a second opportunity after that, I think it has to come into more than just football. Maybe it was, he's a soft demeanor. He's a quiet guy. Maybe that had part to do with it, maybe. But I'm not sure what the answer is, because a lot of these guys, even Jonathan Senegal, I thought for sure when they drafted him this year that he might have stuck a little bit, enough to be that developmental piece, because he's another one that's a heck of a player. And I'm surprised that he didn't get a second chance there.
So, senior football, what are we talking in terms of age here? Like, generally, is it, like you said, it's mostly pros? Are we talking mid to late 20s, early 30s playing in this? And in terms of even what you're facing with Germany and Italy?
Yeah, so when we went through this last year, we held camps across the country, tryouts. I mean, we went through like 500-600 guys to get down to our original 45 that we took to Italy there. So I would say the average age of our guys between 25 and 28 years old. Honestly, that's probably what the norm is. But the reality is it's a 20-plus event, but I mean, really, a lot of those 20-plus guys, they're just not there with the guys that have CFL or U Sports or NCAA experience, right? So we kind of gauge it there. We want guys that have kind of been there, done it. So you're not teaching, you're just putting them in position.
Okay, so what does this tournament look like? It's in November, so it's you, Italy, and Germany, and like you said, you might get another game against Italy.
Yeah. So we're waiting on to see what happens there, but they want to put their A team forward, which we're all for. And I think if we're going to go to Europe for, another 10 or 12 days this year, I mean, let's get 2 games on the docket versus just the one if we can. Yeah. So we'll know here Thursday. We'll see what shakes out here this week, but worst case scenario, we're playing Germany, and that German national team's got a lot of, they got a lot of dudes on that team, but I don't think people realize, the amount of NCAA guys on the O-line and D-line, guys that have gone overseas, came back, and now they're on that national team, or they're playing in the GFL or ELF. And, it's going to be, I don't anticipate that game being no 56-0. I envision that game being a solid game, and they got guys, they got dudes.
Okay, so how does it look in terms of getting your team prepared? Like, when do you come together to practice? Where do you practice? When will those preparations start?
Yeah, we kind of using different models, right? Like, I mean, when you're self-funded, we're nonprofit. We're, as much as we're under Football Canada, I mean, we're not given any money, right? So really, everything we're doing financially is hustle, fundraising, sponsorship. We're holding golf tournaments. We're doing whatever we need to do it. So really, holding camps costs money, right? If I'm being honest. So the reality of it is that when we go to Germany or Italy or both, for example, we're going to have a compressed work week. We've kind of found a formula that makes, it's kind of a pro mentality, but kind of, we're not there to teach you how to catch and block and run routes. You know what I mean? You're focused on fine tuning football, timing, that kind of stuff, right? So really, a lot of the preparation right now is guys are sending me workout videos, on the field workouts. We're going through that, making sure they're in shape, picking our roster based off film or guys that we've worked with before. And then realistically, for the second phase, I think we're going to replace probably 8 to 10 guys with the same model. And then once we get overseas, it's literally, you're doing 5 hours of on the field football per day, plus probably 2 or 3 hours of meetings. So you're calling it a 6 to 7 hour day compressed work week. And we figured the model's probably 3 to 4 days before we play our first game that we need. So kind of 15 to 20 hours of on the field, and then we play our first game.
Really is a labor of love. Like, it is. You're just putting money in to get there to play. That's really what it is. So what does this cost to pull off? Like, so you don't get very much, if any, money from Football Canada. Can you tell me, like, what are we looking at, and how do people help if they want to, if they believe in football and want to help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of dance around this one a little bit, but I would say to revive this and bring it back like we did, if there was a financial component that supported it from Football Canada, the national provincial entities probably wouldn't have supported it. So we took on the fact that they would help us with insurance and helmets, and then we would have to self-fundraise all the other money just to get this over the finish line, which we agreed to do. So that last event was about $130,000 for about 70 people for, call it 10, 11, 12 days, right? So, and it's probably going to be in the same ballpark, maybe a little less if we don't play Italy, but it will at least be $120,000 to go to Germany, that many guys for, call it 6, 7, 8, 9 days, right? So flights are what kills us right now, and no one's willing to give up pricing on that or help with that. Yeah. I mean, we've talked to Air Canada, WestJet, other airlines, and they're all kind of, it's not happening, I guess, to put it short. So.
Yeah. So what does that look like for you? You're not just a coach. You got to raise funds. Like, how many people are helping you raise funds? What's the undertaking with regards to this?
Yeah. So, as much as, as much as we got a good group of people, so I got about 6 people behind the scenes helping me do a lot of this, right? But we're also asking the players. So, like, for example, like, you go to the national flag teams or, the under 20, they have to pay X amount of dollars to participate in these events or find sponsorships, right? So our last event, we didn't charge our guys. So we covered everything other than a couple bags on their flights and I think one meal. right?
Yeah.
So each guy was out of pocket, call it $250, $300.
Yeah.
But they got a $2,600 trip to Italy, right? So
And played football.
and played football, right? So we kind of did our best to kind of eliminate all of that so that we could get the best of the best. I mean, you go and tell a Michael O'Connor it's going to cost you $3,000 to come, he's not coming, right?
No.
And we kind of knew that. So that's kind of what we've asked, but we've also asked the players and coaches, like, hey, try and find a sponsorship. If your work, that will give you $1,000 or $500 or a personal sponsor, go get it, collect it, because we could use it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mandate. Is we're pushing the guys to kind of try and find $1,000 if you can, and then we're fundraising the rest.
Do we have a website where we can follow along with regards to this? I know there's the Football Canada or whatever, but can you give us a website so I can put a link and people can follow along?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I will send that over to you. We have our own privatized website that's associated with Football Canada, but realistically, it's we've done our own thing that way that we can kind of get more views and kind of separate it a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we pass it along because we do want to grow the game here on this podcast for sure. Thanks for your time, Jesse. We'll be in touch. November's a long way away. I'll get some players and other coaches on too. This is fun. I love talking all forms of football. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, the Dean at the Edwards School of Business in Saskatoon, the Dean of CFL Simulation, Keith Willoughby, is back. And Keith, let's get right into it. A pick 6 where we look at 6 topics from the last week. I'll kind of guide you through it. Number 1, bigger concern for the Riders, the secondary or the overall kicking game, both the place kicking and punting?
Ballsy, not even close. It's the kicking game. Kicking game 110%. And I know that VA torched the Rider secondary in the loss on Friday/Saturday. What a weekend that was for this past in the past Rider game. But let's look at the kicking game. Let's look at a situation where Brett Lawther left some points on the board against Hamilton and made the end of that game more exciting than it should have been. Left some points on the board against Toronto, made that game more close than it should have been at the end. Joe Couch shanked a punt against Calgary. Lawther again missed 2 field goals again. I know one was a long field goal against the Stampeders. I'll tip my cap to the Rider secondary again. Even though VA torched them, Agent Zero has a pick 6 this year. Tavon Campbell has a pick 6 this year. The challenge with the kicking game is that when Lawther or any field goal kicker misses a kick, you're immediately losing points. And that's why I think the kicking game right now for me is the bigger concern with the Riders.
So are you bringing in somebody to push Lawther, like a Boris Beatty's out there, like an Eric Maximak, who is a Thunder kicker, maybe a Galvin who kicked for the Rams?
I don't know if Beatty's the answer. If Beatty's the answer, I don't like the question. But the other names you mentioned, bring in somebody. Again, not that I want to compare us to the NFL, but if this were an NFL team, there would be a lineup of kickers, and there'd be a derby that you'd be having. And again, Lawther has a long career with the Riders. Last year, he stubbed his toe in the home game against Montreal, then went on a real long streak. But it's tenuous right now. To me, the West is ultra competitive. I see 4 teams that could make the playoffs in the Western Division, and I don't want to be in a situation where the Riders are having to either win a pair of road games in the West or in the East to make it to the Grey Cup. So I'm bringing people in to put some pressure on 12.
I have to be honest with you. I'm kind of shocked that you weren't more worried about the secondary, especially since number 12 is heating up for the BC Lions. That's going to be a big game here. Oh. That's not an easy one, and he was 26 of 30 against the Edmonton Elkamos, whose defense isn't very good. I don't know. I'm not as sold in the Riders secondary as I'm not as high as maybe you. I'd give them, probably just judging by your words, a lesser grade than what you're giving them. So that's going to be an interesting game in BC.
And again, BC against Edmonton on Sunday night, it looked like Rourke was running a 7-on-7 drill for the entire game. Like he was open. I've never seen a quarterback, even harkening back to Ron Lancaster, like Rourke, who could command the up tempo game at the end of the first half was great. He put the ball into the end zone. It's a tall order this week. Rourke torched us last year when the Riders went to Vancouver, and face it, if there's 2 losses in a row, I think the sky is falling in Rider Nation.
Well, I think it's fair to say, though, that I don't think they were a 4-0 team. They probably were closer to a 2-2 team.
It was a bit of a mirage. Again, Toronto, Mario's kick returns it at the end of the game. Hamilton was a close game. So, yeah, had the chips fallen where they could have, again, we might not have had that 4-0 record, but it was a real kick in the gut for Rider Nation on Saturday afternoon.
It's only 1 loss, so you shouldn't panic if you're in Rider Nation. Okay, how do you feel about? I've made my thoughts known. How do you feel about how Friday and Saturday was handled by the league and then the team? I think the team kind of redeemed themselves, but just in general, how do you feel how that was handled?
Thoroughly disappointed. I've been going to Rider games since the early 70s, and I thought I've seen everything. And then lo and behold, we had Smokegate rolled into Mosaic on Friday and then into Saturday. Ballsy, what really frustrated me, and I'll give you three words: what, when, and who. What, in terms of the communication, was zero. There was limited detailed communication from any source, whether the Riders or the league or the broadcasting partner. The when. There was a gap of about 90 minutes where Rider Nation sat in the stands of Mosaic with zero communication coming from anybody, and I think that needs to be rectified. And finally, the who. I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders missed a glorious chance when the game was finally postponed again at about 10:45. There was nobody from Rider management, leadership, a general manager, coach, somebody to convey the message. So it was the public address announcer, it was the 2 on-field stadium personnel. Why not give the Rider Nation 2 or 3 minutes of somebody coming out either on the Maxtron or coming out to center field just to deliver a message to the fans? I think, to me, that's what I found the most frustrating part of Friday, was there was no recognition that Rider Nation endured a 4.5-hour snooze fest.
So I'm going to take people behind the scenes here, because that's what I do. So I've asked to have the commissioner on time and time and time and time and time again. And I got to the point where I called them out on social media, and then they got back to me, and they're going to come on soon. And then he's over here doing an interview, and over there doing an interview, and over there doing an interview. So I haven't talked to him, okay? I don't know. Am I not a nice guy? Like, why am I being blacklisted? I don't understand why. I've never done anything to the guy, but whatever, neither here nor there. But I've heard through the grapevine and other interviews that they didn't have a protocol with regards to if the game didn't start up. Like, if you are playing the game and then it stops, like the rain delay in Montreal, after that they changed, you got 3 hours because you've started, and then you can warm up. We didn't start this game, so there was no protocol. This isn't the first summer where we've had forest fires. Mm-hmm. You think they would have done a run through before? Like, I'm not blaming this necessarily on the Riders, on the league. Do you not have some sort of run through before? Like, what if this happens? It's not like this just crept up on us.
No, and you look at basically 4 of the franchises, the Prairie franchises, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, and Calgary, dealing with these issues. This will not be the first time that smoke will impact a CFL game. So I wish the protocol would be A, developed, and B, communicated. And again, I love Rider Nation, and I will always go to the games. I'm a proud Rough Rider fan, but let's not forget, Ballsy, that we are a generation removed from ticket-thons in this franchise. So there is not this trust can be eroded if communication isn't prevalent.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk we'll do negatively and then we'll do positively. So negatively to me would be because of the poor communication, because of maybe not getting ahead of it early. Like, people were texting me saying, I was at the Stampede in Calgary, and then I went to Saskatoon, and we couldn't get a hotel in Regina, so we stopped in Moose Jaw because there was a screw up with the hotel in Regina. Stopped in Moose Jaw. This is 6 o'clock, and we still haven't got an update on the smoke and if the game's going on and what's going on. It's funny, people still text and call me. I'm a nobody now. They're like, hey, do you know what's going on with the game? No, I don't know what's going on with the game. But what happens now, Keith? Trust is a key word. So if I'm Keith Willoughby in Saskatoon, or I'm Frank in Yorkton, or I'm Joe in Prince Albert, and I'm driving down, if I even smell smoke, I'm not coming now. And that is something I don't know how the riders are going to get around that. That perception's everything, and facts are negotiable, Bubba.
Yeah, and we were fortunate that early in the week we had booked a hotel room in Regina.
Yeah.
So we were able to stay over, but I know there's a lot of members of Rider Nation that were there on Friday and couldn't make it back to Saturday. There were some actually that made the trip twice, and I tip my cap to them. But this is a situation to me that I wish at the end of the marathon of waiting on Friday that there'd been some presence from the Rough Riders, some trusted face, somebody that we knew that could convey the message to let the fans know that this is an atypical situation. Here's what's happened, and here's what we're going to do to help you.
So they did come through, and in the end, all's well that ends well that way. But I do want to end this point of the pick six on a high note. What is it? I've questioned maybe the waning passion of Rider Nation, and I don't think you can, and I'm not blaming the fans. I'm not blaming them at all. There are different factors, but they don't even sell the upper bowl anymore, okay? Mm-hmm. So that tells you that it has waned a bit. But that did tell me that it's still pretty healthy if those fans are going to stick around that long.
There is a positive pulse within Rider Nation. There are people, again, unlike any other franchise, obviously in the CFL or maybe even in professional sports, there is this love affair, this connection that the fans have to the organization. But again, my warning is let's continue to maintain and cultivate that trust, because once it's gone, it can be very difficult to get back.
Number 3 in the pick six. It's a 3-horse race right now for the MOP. I've got Kenny Lawler, who made the catch of the year, and you probably won't beat that. I'd like to see if you could beat that. Nathan Rourke, who's catching fire, and Vernon Adams Jr., who I hope for Vernon he can make that work in Calgary.
Yeah, all 3 players are having incredible seasons. Again, think of the 2 quarterbacks this past week with Rourke and VA, who put on clinics. VA was dropping in dimes to Calgary receivers all throughout the game on Saturday. Having said that, I'm going to go with Lawler. I know we're in a quarterback-driven league, but Kenny Lawler has personally turned around the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They were 7-11 last year, finished 4th in the East. They are a contending team in the East now. Ballsy, he has 7 touchdown receptions. Nobody else has more than 4. Mm-hmm. He scored a touchdown in every game this season except the one against the Riders. But oh, by the way, he caught 8 balls for 162 yards against the Riders. And again, maybe I'm still have that hangover from last year's West Final when he caught 4 for 177 and 3 touchdowns basically before we had the mercy rule. To me, Lawler he's on a level right now that is far and above any other receiver in Canada. That's why I'd give him the nod.
Okay, good one. Okay, number 4 in the pick six. Speaking of VA, he's finally finding his footing. I think, obviously life isn't fair, and that's a prime example last year. Injuries, and then Rourke comes back, and so now he goes to Calgary. And like I said, I love VA. I hope he does great there. But he's been a guy that's kind of bounced around, right, Keith? He's been here. Yeah. He's been there.
Here.
So now I look in Edmonton, and Trey Ford had a good game, and then this game did not have a very good game. Is Trey Ford, if you're the GM, Ed Hervey, is he on a long leash, or is he in the doghouse, a.k.a. on the bench?
He's on the longest of long leashes. Because Edmonton, let's face it, who else have you got? And maybe we can speak to the 17 Elks fans across Canada right now. Warren Moon ain't walking in the front door right now. Tom Wilkinson ain't walking in the front door. Ricky Ray, Tracy Ham, Matt Dunnigan. Right now, what you got? Trey Ford and Cody. Again, Cody had reasonable success with Montreal and with us, but he's not the answer. To me, I'd give Trey Ford a long leash. And let's face it, Edmonton plays Saskatchewan twice, so you know that Trey Ford's going to have 2 monster games this season.
You said that all along. That's true. He's probably going to be Trey Vick, right?
Yeah.
Number 5 on the pick six. And it's a week-to-week league, so I don't get. I'm gonna cool the Jets on power rankings because they can change. Okay, Calgary, though, with my eyeball test, they smoke Winnipeg and they smoke Saskatchewan. Like, you can't say enough about what Calgary did here in Saskatchewan. Lumpy beds, 4 to a dorm room. If that's the case, like I said, next week in Winnipeg, they should stay at the U of M and have dorms because it seems like a recipe. So Calgary's the best team right now. Okay, I think we'll say that. Who's the worst team, Edmonton or Ottawa?
Not even close. It's Ottawa. And I had Ottawa as my dark horse this year. Maybe if I'm sort of doing like the NCAA football, Edmonton owns the head-to-head against Ottawa. They've beaten Ottawa. Let's look at who. And again, Edmonton's loss to BC was really rough, but they played the Lions twice. They played Winnipeg. They played Montreal. I know Ottawa, their lone win was in Calgary in the monsoon that was McMahon. But right now, to me, Ottawa is really underwhelming. So that's what I would put them as the worst team in the league. And maybe just because I respect Trey Ford, that I know when he's on fire, again, he controls the game unlike any other quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, but definitely he needs to get better as a passer, but I'd like to see him get that longer leash to have a chance to do that.
Exactly. And like you said, I'm not trying to sound cynical about this, but we've seen his best games have been against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He turns it on against us. So we'll see what happens on, I guess, July 25th this year. Next home game for the Riders.
Yeah, so number 6 in the pick 6, and then I got one extra point. Now, I think we're going – this is year 3 of the 7-year CBA, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they signed it my very first year when I was the voice of the team. They had the training camp lockdown because they had to go through their negotiations. It was a 7-year deal. So there's – through 2, they're into the 3rd year of a 7-year deal. So I would like to see them address this, and I would love to ask the commissioner this if he'd ever come on. We're at 7 starters right now. My proposal is this. We're looking to make, how do we get all these points and all this stuff? Well, teams are loading up on one side of the ball, and in particular on defense, okay? Mm-hmm. I think Calgary had one Canadian, and that was Adrian Green on the corner, for instance, okay? I propose, I'd like to see 10 starters, but people go, we don't have enough great Canadians. So let's start baby steps. Let's go 8 starters, but you have to play 4 on offense and 4 on defense. Make it simple. You can't load it up. And that way, in theory, maybe there's a mismatch where if we want to believe it, there's an American against a Canadian somewhere. I'm just using people's words. American versus a Canadian where you can get a matchup for points. Because right now you've got 11 Americans on defense. And it's tough for a Canadian to actually get on the field in some cases because they just don't. You can't. You can play special teams, but you're never going to get on defense because we just load up our defense. And get rid. I don't care. You come from the Linecaster days when they were nationalized. Bullshit. Get rid of that nationalized American crap. I don't care that you lived in the country. This is our league. I respect the Americans, but just because you lived here for 4 years, who gives a shit? You're not a Canadian.
Yeah, Ballsy, I'd have to agree with you on that. I think the nationalized American, whatever you call it, it erodes opportunities for homegrown players who are born with a Canadian passport. I like your idea of trying to get some balance of whether it's a 4-on-4 situation, both sides of the ball. I think it would open up opportunities for Canadian defensive linemen, linebackers, and members of the secondary. It might impact Canadian receivers, but again, I look, there's a number of really good Canadian receivers out there, so maybe that helps to stabilize situations. I think the 4-on-4 would, I think it would allow opportunities for Canadian players whose hearts sing for playing the defense and who might feel shut out right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and lastly, speaking of defense, the extra point. Jake Ceresna pops out his knee. Puts it back in, goes in and makes 2 tackles and an interception, then ends up wrecking his leg again and probably out for the year. But that just speaks to the toughness that these football players, just how tough they are and what they put their bodies through for not a lot of money. Yes, no. You know what, 150, 160,000 is not chump change, but it's not life-changing money is what I'm saying for what they might go through the rest of their lives.
And let's look at, and the careers are not guaranteed. You're not going to be, CFL players generally aren't playing 10 to 15 years. Yes, some might, but a lot of them, it's a couple of years and you're done. I'm not trying to pick on other sports, but when you watch soccer, a player gets tackled and they go down like they've been, shot from one of the Kennedy assassins or something like that. And you see players like Serezna. Well, think back years ago, players like Bob Poley that would break their fingers and tape them up again.
Ed
It's
McQuarters lost an eye and came back and played.
Mhm. Exactly. So you've got throughout the league, through all 9 franchises, you've got players that are putting up with physical contact every single play throughout practices, who are dealing with not just bumps and bruises, but injuries that could be debilitating, but they're going out there and putting forth their incredible effort for themselves and the fans.
Well, I like to pick your brain. You're a sports nerd that's got a great opinion, great personality, and you love the game, and everybody likes our chat. So that's why I bring you on. But I also bring you on for CFL Simulations. So hot off the presses, Riders, BC Lions. I'm assuming the computer, because the computer's kind of dumb. It's a prisoner of the moment in some cases. 2-1 last week, by the way. BC, Saskatchewan. What do you got there?
BC. Computer advice, they 59%. If you look at the power indexes, in terms of favoring the Lions, which A, makes sense because they're playing at home, and B, Jeremiah Masoli is not the starting quarterback. Nathan Rourke was on fire. And, when you've got now McInnes and Hatcher, you've got Berryhill, you've got James Butler in the backfield, who is like, he could have had 250 yards against the Elks on Sunday night. So to me, BC riding a real crest of optimism right now.
Thursday Night Football is back. Toronto on the road in Montreal. I don't see Montreal losing that game.
No, I think Montreal, obviously with the bye this past week, and Toronto as well. They had the bye, but I think we're beginning to see some separation in the East. And Montreal, of course, they're not worried about Hamilton because Hamilton is quick on their path. So I see Montreal over Toronto, and so does the computer.
It's Calgary at Winnipeg, Friday Night Football, the return of Milt Stegall to the TSN panel. And man, he's going to get after his son Chase died, he's going to get a celebration in his Canadian home city of Winnipeg, Manitoba. The panel will be live at Princess Auto Stadium. I'm going to be there. I can't wait to hear the chants there for Milt Stegall, the Turtle Man. I expect Winnipeg to win. And normally I would say Winnipeg will blow them out. I don't think Winnipeg will blow them out. I think this will be a close game. In fact, I could see it being a pick-em game, a field goal game. I think it's going to be a good game. Calgary's for real, but I got Winnipeg slightly.
The computer has Calgary, 54% chance looking at the power indexes. I'm going to go solely on the side of Winnipeg. To me, Winnipeg by 14-17. Oh. O'Shea is not losing twice in 3 weeks to the same team. And again, Calgary, I give them props. Like, to me, Calgary is they're the best team in the CFL right now. But they got enough gas in the tank to go toe-to-toe with Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and take all three. If they win in Winnipeg, to me, they've really put down their foot. But I got Winnipeg doing this one.
So I never asked. I didn't. Maybe I didn't listen correctly. That wouldn't be the first time. Who did you pick? BC, Saskatchewan. Yourself.
BC. I'm just maybe tainted from having spent 30 hours at this last week's football game. Now I know what a cricket fan feels like. It's just.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had Wi-Fi in the stands, so I could watch the last bit of a few episodes of Better Call Saul. But it was pretty tough sitting on the stands for 5 hours.
I was really shocked too. Back to that Rider game for a second. I was really shocked that we dressed 2 American running backs and we barely used Kadeem Carey. I like Mark Mueller. I think he's going to be a head coach in this league one day, given the opportunity. But that was that was less than spectacular as an OC in that game. But once again, I didn't see the all 24. I wasn't at the game. I just saw the tight screen on TSN. I wasn't in the booth. Maybe he just felt he couldn't, but I just didn't think they tried to establish the run there at all.
Oh, it was pretty poor. And again, I know I have Rider glasses on, but I'm smart enough to realize that no team is going to go perfect. The 48 Stampeders went 12-0. The 81 Edmonton team went 14-1-1. We're going to lose a game, but to me, it's how we lost. There was zero. We didn't control the line of scrimmage. Our O-line couldn't move them, and we couldn't stop Calgary. You knew it was going to be a long afternoon when VA throws his worst pass of the game on the first play. AJ Allen intercepts it. We go 2 quick passes and kick a field goal. Next drive, we get a fumble recovery from CJ Rivas. and go 2-0. And when it's 22-8, or sorry, it was 21-9 in terms of minutes of possession in the first half. Like that was just, to me, Calgary down our throats every single play.
Well, and they showed you how to defend Trevor Harris. You got to push the interior of the pocket. If he can't step up in the pocket, he's certainly not getting outside. He's got all the mobility of a light post.
Yeah, I love Harris for completion percentage. He's one of the top in the history of the CFL. But you really saw it. There were 2 or 3 drives in this fourth quarter. And again, I know it was a 2-score game, so it's not like we were like within a point of tying. But got down close to the 10-5-yard line, 3rd and goal, couldn't put it in. To me, Harris is no threat to run. So if they can clog the passing lanes, it's pretty tough for the offense to score.
Yeah, it is. And somebody asked me on my post-game show, hey, can you see the Riders winning with Trevor Harris a Grey Cup? Yeah, I can, but not throwing for 44 times in a game. That's what I mean. You can't have your 39-year-old dude putting it up 44 times. That's not a recipe for winning. No,
exactly. To me, the recipe for the Riders, it's ground and pound. And that's what we saw against BC. That's what we've seen throughout this season so far. And that was very silent and non-existent against Calgary on Saturday.
I got Hamilton over Ottawa. What does the computer have?
Hamilton over Ottawa. Again, even though it's back-to-back, the home and home, and they're in Ottawa, to me, it's the presence of Kenny Lawler. Bo is playing like Calgary Bo right now, and they're starting to position themselves as a very competent, qualified team. And I used to think that the August home game against when Hamilton comes here was a free space, the bingo card. Not anymore. There aren't many free spaces left for the Riders this year.
Actually, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to pick Ottawa on an upset. Ottawa needs to win. They're desperate. They got to win that game. They got to win that game. They have to win that game. That fan base, like, they need to start winning some games there.
Fair point. And I love Coach Dice. Yeah. And But yeah, Hamilton just seems, again, it was only a 3-point victory though. Only a 3-point victory in Hamilton at Tim Hortons.
Yeah, at actually Hamilton Stadium, which is another shocker. I can't believe they don't have naming rights for that thing yet. It's Hamilton Stadium. Okay, so let's get to the bigger picture. So I would assume if the Stamps smoke the Bombers and smoke the Riders, that the computer loves them for the Grey Cup right now.
My goodness, they have gone in 2 weeks from 3% to 64%. Wow. And again, I know it's early, so there's a very sparse number of games that have been played, but the computer is all behind Calgary right now in terms of seeing them hoisting the Grey Cup in November in Winnipeg.
Who are they playing?
Hamilton.
Okay, Calgary and Hamilton. What's the Riders' probability now? It was like around 49%, wasn't it? Now it's down?
Yeah. You sort of feel like the check engine light just went on for the Saskatchewan Roughriders right now. Now we're 9%. So it's we're back in sort of that middle ground, so to speak, where Calgary is claiming a lot of the space in terms of the computer's probabilities, and Saskatchewan now fighting for some possibilities.
So what's the? I think you had it at 14-4 last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The computer did for the Riders record. What's the record? It's only one loss. It couldn't have nosedived that much, right?
It's like a tariff now. It seems it's clawing things back as we speak. So we've gone from 14-4 to 12-6, and it's a very thin 12-6, because it's again, the model still feels the Riders are going to get second place and host Winnipeg in a West semifinal, but based upon what we've seen. Again, I know it's only 5 games. I think what really worries me as a Rider fan is I've seen this movie before where we seem to start well every year. We hit some turbulence, and it's like the oxygen mask dropping from the panel above you and everybody trying to get the mask on before helping another Rider fan.
Lastly, I mean, we're only 6 weeks in. Riders have only played, 5 games? So, like, a lot of teams have only played 5 games. So it's way too early. But it does feel like if it keeps going like this, we could have 4 teams in the West make the playoffs.
Exactly. And I think if you're a Rider fan right now, and not that I want us to tank, but let's face it, I think 4th is better than 3rd. Because if we finish 3rd, again, I know I'm projecting here for November, and we're still middle of July. But 3rd means you're going somewhere, Winnipeg, Calgary, BC. I'm excluding Edmonton for now, obviously. But if I finish fourth, again, I got, who knows, in terms of no team has ever gone through the East as a crossover to make it to the Grey Cup. But I think what frustrates us as a Rider fan right now is everything. And I know maybe I'm spending a lot of time on the Saskatchewan-Calgary game, but we had the bye week. They had the short week. They were staying at the U of R dorms. They were staying in hotels. They had chaos everywhere. And they're the team that came out with passion. And we had a complete non-effort. Kicking, punting, offense, defense, special teams. Absent Joe Robustelli, there's not a whole to talk about from Saturday afternoon's barn burner at Mosaic.
I do like how A.J. Allen's emerged, though, in the linebacking core.
Yeah, and you go back to the Canadian situation. You think that's where you've got a gem as a Canadian linebacker. He's made 2 interceptions this season. He's around the ball. I'm not yet sold on Nelson Lacombo. I know he's a USAS guy, but I wish there was more physical presence at safety. Tavon Campbell, again, I know he was injured last week, and we saw when VA with Damien Alford torched Brooks on that long 81-yard touchdown, when the Riders had a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly squashed by the Calgary offense.
Well, I hope Calgary continues to play strong. Obviously, I don't want them to win the West for obvious reasons, and you don't want them to either. But I hope the city gets behind them. Like, I hope they get some fans now.
Yeah, and I lived in Calgary. I did my PhD at the University of Calgary in the mid-'90s, so I was there in the Flutie era when it was strong, but you had Flutie, you had Pitts, you had Jeff Garcia, Dave Sapungis, Mark McLaughlin. Like, you had a list of all-stars at key positions. My sense is Calgary is a hockey town, and the Flames move the needle, and the Stamps are viewed as, I don't know, sort of like page 3 of the sports section, if that.
Hey, this will tell you what a football nerd I am. I went down the rabbit hole and watched the 1978 West semifinal, Calgary and Winnipeg, on Rob Van Stone's suggestion, because Rob and I went for supper. He said, I watched the 78 West semifinal, and Winnipeg had injuries at quarterback. So the great, and I say that loosely, the great Harry Knight was the quarterback for the Bombers, third string guy. Yeah, exactly. You don't even remember who that is. And he was awful. So I put out a social media post. Who is the worst quarterback that you can, in your mind, in your team's history? So who's the worst quarterback you've watched in Rider colors? For me, it's close. It's a coin flip between Tino Sunseri or Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian could not break a pane of glass with a football.
Yeah, I always called Tino so sorry, because that's what I felt like when I watched him. Sarkisian, and he's good right now. He's good right now in terms of coaching of Texas.
Well, Tino coaches too. Tino coaches somewhere in the States too. I forgot. Okay. Yeah.
Boy, there's a long list of contenders for that worst title. I had to watch Marvin Graves. Marvin had a good career at Syracuse, but tanked here as a Rider quarterback. Maybe throw out one other name. Mason Fine's too obvious. Maybe Mitch Gale. Mitch had one good game in 2016. It was actually Coach Jones' first victory as a Rider head coach. He was the quarterback. We beat Ottawa 29-27 at the old Taylor Field, old Mosaic. But boy, there's been some duds behind center in terms of the Rider franchise.
Bernard Quarles. The other one just slipped my mind. Bernard Quarles was a bad quarterback. We've had a lot of bad ones, actually.
We have Seth Nagy.
Seth Nagy was bad. Vince Young wasn't spectacular.
Yeah, Vince was here 10 years too late. But came in overweight and underpaid.
Yeah. By the way, Tino Sunseri, not a great quarterback. He is the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach with the UCLA Bruins.
Oh my. Fantastic. playing now in the Big Ten. Playing in the Big Ten.
Oh, think about that. And Steve Sarkisian was not a good quarterback, and he is the head coach of the Texas Longhorns.
Exactly. Well,
those that can't do, right?
Yeah, and Ryan Didwitty coaches the Argos. Jason Moss was a decent quarterback when he played in the CFL.
You know who's a bad quarterback here too? He could run around a bit, but he was bad. Kevin Mason. Remember him? He was bad.
Mm-hmm. Remember that was the year we had Mason and Slack. Kevin could make athletic plays, but it was one good play and 7 bad ones.
You got that right. Hey, this has been fun, man. We could talk for hours, and we'll do it again.
Thanks, Ballsy. All the best. Go Riders.